This week I am actually very excited about this recipe that I'm sharing because it is super good. It's one of my favorite fall soups that I make. It's actually a pumpkin chili. Let us get started. This is a tri-tip roast. This recipe calls for 2 pounds of beef of some kind. You could use stew meat, which is also turns out really, really good and is super easy. First thing that we're gonna do is we're just gonna dice this up into little cubes here, just like so. It doesn't have to be exact. Before you start cutting those, put a large Dutch oven onto medium heat and get that heating up. We're just gonna season this meat with salt and pepper, probably 1.5 teaspoons of fresh ground pepper, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Stir that up. Add a little bit of olive oil. Add that to the pan, probably 3 tablespoons. And we're going to sear the meat in here in small batches. You don't want it like stacked up too much because then it doesn't really sear, it just kind of steams. While that is searing, prickly. I'm going to prepare this other stuff. We just have 1 small yellow onion, just a really, really small guy. We're gonna dice this up, kind of a pretty small dice. I have 4 garlic cloves. Just cut off the stems, and then smash each one, and give it a good rough chop. Doesn't have to be super pretty. Check the meat. We have 2 fresh bay leaves. You can also use dried. 1 big sprig of thyme and 3 kind of regular sprigs of oregano. And this pumpkin, we'll get that ready. For this, we just cut the top and bottom off. And you can use a vegetable peeler or just your knife to kind of go along and take off the skin. Meat's at a good spot this first round, so I'll take this out and put the second round in. Don't be afraid of the brown gathering in the bottom of the pan. That's called fond. It's a ton of flavor, and that's actually what we want out of the searing. We want to get that flavor in the pan. Pumpkin, now we will cut it in half and scoop it out. Once that's cleaned out, we're just going to cut that also into cubes. And this is going to cook for a really long time, so it's going to break down into the soup. So they can be somewhat larger pieces. Doesn't have to be super small, but don't make them too big. That's cut up. The meat is finished. Chef privileges. Oh, it's hot. Add a little bit more olive oil, just like 1 tablespoon, and then immediately in with the onions and the garlic, the pumpkin, and then I'll add the herbs as well. We'll drop the temperature just below medium. What we want to do now is we want to trap some of the steam from those vegetables. It's going to break up the fond in the bottom of the pan, which will then kind of flavor everything, make it all really good. While that's going, let's season it. A couple pinches of salt, probably 2 teaspoons, a few grinds of black pepper, say a teaspoon. Preheat the oven to 325. Then I'm going to make my chili mix. We're going to want 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of cumin. I have cinnamon, ground cinnamon. That's going to be like 1/4 of a teaspoon. This is ancho chili powder, optional. You don't have to add it if you don't want to. Ancho chili powder is not really spicy, it's a little bit sweet, but even still I'm only going to add 1 teaspoon. This is smoked paprika, and that I'm going to add another tablespoon. This is ground clove, like 1/8 of a teaspoon, not very much at all. You want 2 teaspoons of allspice. I can tell that my pan's starting to get darker instead of, loosen up. There's not a lot of liquid that's coming out. So I'm just gonna add just a couple tablespoons of water. I'm gonna let that simmer for just a little bit. Let's talk about bone broth. The Bonafide brand is a little thicker because of all the collagen in it. And so for that reason, I use it for this part, and then I'll use some Kettle and Fire bone broth, which is not quite as thick, when I actually make the soup. 24 ounces, that's what, 3 cups? We'll just add the whole thing. Simmering, we'll add the beef in. Stir that up. And you can see the pumpkin is already starting to become really tender and kind of break down. For a 2-hour braise, there's not enough liquid in here though, I can already tell, so we'll add a cup of water. Now, that gets covered, and we will put it right in our 325-degree oven for about 2 hours. Hour and a half has passed. Now we're going to prep the rest of the ingredients that are going to go in there. This is a medium-sized sweet onion, green bell pepper, red bell pepper. We're just going to dice each one of these. That's all diced. Now I have a can of black beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, and lima beans. Optional, but I really like them. We're going to put all of these into a strainer and rinse them off. Those are draining in the sink, and now we have fire roasted diced tomatoes, 2 large cans of those, I think it's 28 ounces, and then 2 small cans of fire roasted diced green chilies. The green chilies we're going to drain the water out of, but the tomatoes we'll leave the water in. But we're ready to take this out. Let's do it. Oh, please don't burn me. Before we can do anything else, take out the thyme and the bay leaves and the oregano. The pumpkin is just falling apart, so tender. The meat is starting to fall apart as well. Just kind of stir it around, break the pumpkin up just a little bit. Now we're gonna add the vegetables that we chopped, tomatoes, right in, the diced green chilies. Let's stir that around and see what that gives us for a consistency. The consistency is pretty thick on it, and so I'm going to add all of the bone broth here. Now we're going to turn the heat on to medium-high, bring that up to a simmer. We're going to add some more of our seasoning here. Chili powder, 2 teaspoons of this, smoked paprika, 2 teaspoons of this, 1 teaspoon of ancho chili powder, and again, actually a half a teaspoon. Again, this is optional. 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground clove, 1 teaspoon ground allspice, and half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. To this we'll also add 3 decent pinches of salt. That's probably 1.5 teaspoons of ground black pepper. And this will just go right in. Once that's stirred up, we'll add all of our drained beans. That was in the oven. I just grabbed it with my hand. Bring it up to a boil, drop the temperature down to medium-low, and then simmer for 20-30 minutes. Okay, this has been 30 minutes. Turn the heat off. Let's take a look at it. Oh yeah, that is perfect. It smells so good. Let's plate it up. Okay, a couple scoops of this. I like mine just with a little bit of sharp cheddar cheese, all the sour cream, and a little bit of cilantro right on there. There it is. My harvest chili, pumpkin chili, whatever you want to call it. So give it a try, let us know how you like it. There's a link in the captions to the full recipe as well as some of the stuff that I've used. And I hope you enjoy it.